Dre Baldwin with DreAllDay.com. Today we're going to talk about the news and why you need to stop paying attention to the news. Pay attention to it enough to know how they're hustling you. There's a whole lot of hustles going on these days, in case you didn't notice it. Keep talking about hustling. There's a lot of hustles going on these days, and the problem is you are the product being hustled. You don't even realize it. But I'm going to help you out. That's why I'm here. So before we get into this, at the end of this vid, I'm going to tell you how to get this book right here, the physical book, free. And before I even get started, I want you to send me a text, or I'm going to give you my text number. During this video, send me a text. Tell me the most valuable insight you get from it, the best idea you got from it, anything you're going to do differently or think different based on what you hear. My number is 305-384-6894. Once again, 305-384-6894. My number is down below in the video description. So what do I mean when I say stop watching the news? First of all, I got an episode of my show, of my podcast, called Working Your Game, where I tell you why you need to stop watching the news. Episode 1474. If I remember, I will link that down below. So here's the thing. Just recently, I saw this news that the Major League Baseball was going to move the All-Star game and the baseball draft. The draft wasn't even an event like that in baseball before, but I guess they're making it an event now. They see what the NFL and the NBA are doing. It was supposed to be in Atlanta, but because a new voting bill got passed in the state of Georgia, that they are going to move the event out of there, I guess, as a way to penalize the state of Georgia, because the Major League Baseball just fundamentally disagrees with this new voting bill that got put into place in the state of Georgia. Now, here's the thing about this new voting bill. You probably have heard about it. If you use social media, you probably heard people talking about it, that this new voting bill is quote-unquote voter suppression. Now, this is what people on the left side of things, political-wise, are saying. I'm not on any side. Politically, I don't have a dog in this race. So here's what you got to understand, because I was on social media seeing people talking about it, and I seen some Republican guy post something about, well, we're going to remove baseball's tax exempt status, or we're going to try to, since they don't want to have their events in our state and things like that. So it's like this back and forth politically that's going to be going on. First of all, I don't like the professional sports getting involved in these political situations. The NBA got involved in it when they did the whole Black Lives Matter thing last summer. I understand why they had to do it, because they got so many young black players, and all these young black players are on social media. They got young black fans, and these young black fans are very impressionable. The race hustlers, as I told you, got them all keyed up thinking that they're victims in America because they're black. So those fans are looking at the athletes like, yo, what are y'all going to do? The race hustlers are looking at the athletes, what y'all going to do? Y'all got to use your voice. You can't be silent in this situation. So the athletes felt like they had to say something. So the athletes go to the NBA. The NBA feels like they got to do something because all the players are black, and here we are. So it didn't hurt anybody necessarily. I mean, it was no harm, no foul. They took a knee and they put the Black Lives Matter on the court, and there was all that, no show and all this shit. And then it was over. All right, now they ain't doing nothing. And the whole thing was, the funny thing is, if we really go back to where this whole all started, the taking the knee thing was what? Colin Kaepernick. In 2016, 15, 16, whichever year that was, he started taking the knee, and they asked him why you're taking the knee. He said, I will not stand to show respect to a flag that oppresses people of color. All right, that's what he said. And he said, I am taking the knee because I want equality. I want to end oppression and this and that. And we need to keep taking the knee until these things get resolved. But none of those things ever got resolved, because there we go 4 years later, and George Floyd happened and Breonna Taylor happened. Whether you think, if you believe, and apparently a lot of people did, believe that this is another example of what Colin Kaepernick was talking about, which is why they took a knee as a symbolic gesture to say Cap was right all along. Well, it's been 4 years, and obviously, according to what these people are saying, nothing has changed. So obviously taking the knee is not the solution. I mean, if we really want to think about it, and no pun intended when we talk about taking a knee. It's George Floyd murder trial still going on of Derek Chauvin in Minneapolis as I record this. But the whole thing is this. When the NBA got involved in that, and they said, well, it's not a political statement, we're just standing with our players and showing solidarity and this and that. The issue was the Black Lives Matter movement was coming under a lot of heat, because people were looking at their website and they saw some of the things Black Lives Matter website organization was saying, the organization's website was saying, and it was like, whoa, this is kind of has nothing to do with dead bodies or anything. This is about some other stuff. They talking about destroying the patriarchy and destroying the nuclear family, and there's a Marxist organization run by people who are trained Marxists, and people were starting to question it. Then Black Lives Matter went and took that stuff off their website. Then people started saying, well, I support Black Lives Matter, the movement and the hashtag, but not the organization, and start separating it and all these different things. And so all that being said, the NBA got involved in this. The NBA started doing a lot of voting campaigns. Everybody should go vote and this and that. Well, most of the NBA's audience are on the left side politically, because most of the players are, and the audience are drawn in by the players, and the players are for the most part influenced by these race hustlers, like a lot of people are, especially people of color, as I explained the race hustlers in the last video. So this is where we go. This is where we end up. The NBA inadvertently got involved in the political conversation, even though they said it wasn't political. They never actually said, hey, Democrat, Republican, vote for this person, vote for this person. They got involved in it, even though they were claiming to not want to get involved in it. And who knows, but they got involved in it whether they wanted to or not. That's pretty much how it happened. Now, the Major League Baseball, for them to go and say, we're going to move this game out of here, because when the Georgia voting bill went in, the governor of Georgia, as of this recording, is a Republican. So it felt like it was a Republican-backed bill, or maybe it actually not even felt like, but literally is a Republican-backed bill. And many people are saying the narrative around it, according to some, is that this bill is Republican-backed because the Republicans are feeling the sting of the state turning from usually being a red state, i.e. voting for what would have been Trump, and then they ended up voting for Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election. So this is kind of like a reaction or response to that happening. Now, that's what some are saying. Now, so if this is true, this is what the race hustlers will tell you. And I'm not even finished making my point, but I'm just laying these down as the just baseline information. If this is true, then Major League Baseball saying we're going to move the games out of the state because of this, isn't that making a political statement? They are choosing a side, because the people who are on the left side, the Democratic side of things, are saying this bill is wrong because you're trying to suppress voting, so the Democrats can't win again. If that's the case, then Major League Baseball picking a side and moving the game out of Georgia is a political statement, even though they're claiming that they're just saying, well, it's not right because you're not allowing people the right to vote. See, when these organizations like the NBA and Major League Baseball, who knows what the NFL is going to do, when they start making these statements saying, well, everybody should have the right to vote, technically voting is bipartisan, right? You can vote for whoever you want. But the only side I hear even making noise about voting, period, is the left side of things politically. And this is not something, you can't act like that's not the case. We can all agree to that, whether you are a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, you don't even vote at all. We can all agree that when we hear people saying we got to vote, we got to vote, we got to vote, it is always the people on the left side of the conversation who are saying this. So when these organizations pick a side and say, well, we want to support voting, this the very act of amplifying voting is picking a side, kind of, in a way. But you can't put that on them. That wouldn't fly in a court of law, I guess. Maybe, depending on who you're talking to. Even with all that, I haven't even gotten to my bigger point yet. The Georgia voting bill. I wouldn't look the bill up, because I'm on Twitter and I see people saying things and people are going back and forth, and somebody's like, well, it's voter suppression, and another person's like, well, no, it's not, you should go read the bill. And then somebody said, well, the bill says this, and someone else says, no, it doesn't say that, and this and that and that. So I said, all right, let me go find this bill. So I went and looked up the Georgia voting bill. The Georgia voting bill, the new bill that just got passed in 2021, is 98 pages of text. There are no pictures, there are no videos, there are no GIFs. It is 98 pages of text. I'm looking on social media and seeing people arguing about this shit, and I'm like, listen, none of these motherfuckers have read a single word of this bill. None of them have actually read the bill. What people have read is what the news told you about the bill. The news posted, New York Times will say, well, the bill says this, and they give you your bullet points. Or CNN says this, or Fox says this, or some person you trust on social media says, well, the bill says this, 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 and this. And depending on the side that they're on, they're going to make it sound good or they're going to make it sound bad. We can all agree to that as well. Again, I don't have a dog in this race. They will make it sound how they want you to feel about it based on their leanings. And every news outlet has a leaning these days. And this is the point, this is the bigger point that I'm making here. Every news outlet has a leaning. New York Times leans left. Fox leans more to the right. CNN leans more to the left. Who's another one? I can't even remember the names of some of them, but I often know just by who posts a link to something, whether it's going to lean to the left or to the right. Can we all agree to that? All right, on social media, I know when these people post something, it's going to be this side. If they post something, it's going to be this side. And there's a few people, when they post up, they're kind of in the middle. They just going to give you what it is and just their perspective on it, but they're not leaning one side or another. The issue with the news these days is that they do not just give you straight up objective facts anymore. They used to give you straight up objective facts back like 20, 30 years ago. The reason they were able to do that 30 years ago is not because the news has actually changed. Things happen, people get shot, and then there's political stuff, then there's back and forth, then there's a snowstorm coming and a hurricane, and it's the same stuff over and over again. The thing is, back in the day, the news was only competing against other news networks. So the advertising dollars that went to their shows, because the way that news outlets make money is through advertising dollars, in case anybody didn't know. You don't get paid for reporting that somebody got shot. What you get paid for is the ads that come on in between the actual news show. That's how they make their money. That's how all the anchors get paid. That's how they have these big buildings and all that stuff is based on ad revenue. So back in the days, they could all make money because there wasn't that much competition. They were just competing against each other on TV, and it was a big pie, and there was 3 or 4 networks slicing up all the dollars. Then what happened is the internet came around. When the internet came around, then first of all, people stopped buying newspapers. So now we just get all our news off our phones, off the computer. When people started doing that, now the news is on the same device that YouTube is on, that Twitter is on, that TikTok is on, that Instagram, Facebook, all these, our email, all whatever games you happen to play on your phone or your computer, the news is on the same device that all of these other things are on. And here's the thing, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok are way more entertaining than watching the news and me hearing about somebody who got arrested for burglarizing a department store and some snowstorm that's coming, or something that happened between the Republicans and the Democrats in the Senate 2 days ago. That's boring compared to looking at some TikTok videos. So the news realized, damn, now we got to compete against this. How are we going to compete? Our stuff is way too boring. Is way too, it's just not sexy. How are we going to compete against these people? So this is what they've done over the years. Now the news is no longer just objective facts. They used to just tell you objective facts and truths about what was going on, and they will let you draw your own conclusions how you felt about it. That was how it was 30 years ago. When I was a kid growing up, we used to sit at the dinner table together and eat dinner, and my parents would have the news on, and the news was always so damn boring because they would just tell you what was happening. Nowadays, if a family sat down at the dinner table and turned on the news, it would be exciting. It's like entertaining. The news is like a TV show now. It's not the news anymore. It's a TV show. It's entertainment now. And what the news did is that they started flavoring the objective truths and objective facts with their own opinions, with their own slants. So this is how I can tell you that certain news companies lean one side and other companies lean another side, because they all started doing this. They couldn't just give you the objective truth anymore, because objective truth is not sexy, ladies and gentlemen. Objective truth is just boring as shit. Objective truth is not entertaining. It is not salacious. It's not something that's going to get you excited at all. It's just like, okay, that's the truth. All right, fine. There's a little bit over here. There's a little bit over here, but it's kind of complicated. It's not black and white. It's not a clear one side wrong, one side right. But the news will have you thinking that that's exactly what it is, right? News will have you thinking anything that this person does must be wrong, and anything this person does, it must be right. That is not the truth of life. That's not how life works, people. We all understand that in life, human beings are not just black and white, all bad, all good. Everything they do is with some positive thing. Everything this person does must be negative. That's not how anybody is. That's not how any story is. Not any actual real truth of anything that occurs in life is like. It's never like that. But the news will have you thinking that that's exactly what it is, based on who you prefer or who you don't prefer. So the news is not the news anymore. They're not objective anymore. They do not tell you the truth. There's a difference between a truth and a fact. A fact is something that actually happened. For example, I could tell you a fact is right now. What's a fact? A fact is right now there's this big black box sitting on the balcony at my crib right now. That's a fact. The truth is that's a big black box that somebody mailed to me because there's a computer or something in there for some appearance I'll be doing in a couple days. So you understand that there's more information when you talk about the truth. All right, a fact is just a little piece you could take out of the truth that is technically accurate, but it's not the whole story. The news doesn't tell you the whole story anymore like they used to, because the whole story is not polarizing. The whole story is just, okay, I get it. I see both sides of it. I can see all angles of this. That's what it is. News can't do that for you anymore. First of all, because it doesn't get enough ratings and clicks. Therefore, they wouldn't make any money. News would go out of business if they just gave you the objective truth. And secondly, because of you not having as long of an attention span as you used to have back in the days, because you have so many different things to draw your attention away and divert your attention, you just want the quick thing. Just give me the quick headline. Tell me what happened. Tell me who's right. Tell me who's wrong. Tell me what I should listen to. Tell me what I should believe. Give me the bullet points of this 98-page bill. Don't send me the bill and tell me to read the whole thing and draw my own conclusions. Give me the bullet points and tell me whether this is good for me or bad for me. And this is what the news does nowadays. We have asked for this. Now, so it's not all the news's fault. All right, they're not negative. They're not no evil. They did this because this is what we asked for. This is what we responded to. So the news is no longer the news. So let me give you a solution to all of this. You have to get your own information these days. Now, how do you do that? Since I just told you that every news outlet is going to lean things one way or another based on their slant that they already have. This is what you do. And this is going to take a little bit of extra work. 3 things. First of all, every time you hear some new piece of information, go get different sources. Listen to a source that tries to make that information sound good, and then go listen to a source that tries to make it sound bad. Get everything that they say on the good side, everything they say on the bad side, the exact same piece of information. Then go find 3 people who are talking about it in such a way that they are trying to balance it out and saying, okay, here's some good things, here's some bad things. Someone who is objective, someone who doesn't have a dog in the race. This is what you got to do. Go find people who do not have a dog in the race to make you feel one way or another. This is extra work. And I want to remind you all that thinking is work. All right, nowadays a lot of people have passed on that job of thinking. They just want the news or some social media influencer to think for them, and they're just telling you what to think, and they ain't even doing no thinking. They're just telling you what your opinion should be. You don't even know if they've done any research or have any information at all. Most of the time they do not. So this is extra work that you have to do these days, and there's only a small percentage of people who are actually doing it. So this is how you get so many people who are so far on one side of a conversation, so far on another side. Neither one of them has objective information. Neither one of them even has the information. All right, they're all going off of what somebody else told them to think and don't even know what the hell is going on. The news is no longer the news. So the best thing you can do is stop watching the news. This is the 3rd point. So make sure that you are listening to information on both sides. If you must look at news, get it from both sides, the same information. The second one, make sure you are listening to 3 people who do not have a dog in the race and see what each one of them says about it so you can get a bigger picture idea. And the 3rd thing is stop watching the news. Do not watch the news. If you do follow the news, make sure you're following multiple news outlets and you're taking everything they say with a grain of sand, because they are always trying to influence you instead of just inform you. They used to have to inform you. Now they got to influence you, because if they didn't influence you, you would stop following them. They wouldn't make any money, and their whole situation would collapse. And this is all about business. All of this is a hustle. All right, here we go again, talking about hustling. This is all a hustle, people. All right, it all comes down to these people saving their careers, because if the business of the news, if the news industry kept doing what they were doing 30 years ago, they would be out of business right now, because nobody would be paying attention because they're boring. All right, so they had to sensationalize the news by taking pieces out of context, a little fact out of the truth, putting a little bit of opinion, mixing the opinion and the fact together, and putting the whole thing out there and telling you that they're giving you the story, when it's opinion and fact mixed together, and they don't even tell you which part is the fact and which part is the opinion. And since most people don't even think on this level of what I just explained to even ask the question, they look at something and think that it's a fact when it's not a fact. It's actually a little bit of fact and a whole lot of opinion, but they make it sound like it's factual. And then you get dumb people repeating stuff that they don't even know is true. Then somebody else repeats it, it gets amplified, and all of a sudden the same bullshit got said so many times that people are now citing that as truth when it's not even true. It wasn't even true to begin with. This is the kind of stuff that happens because of the way the news had to react to the fact that we got these devices and what we're doing on social media. So it's not all the news' fault. It's partly my fault. It's partly your fault. It's partly social media's fault. The news' fault is everybody's fault altogether. This whole Pandora's box has been opened, and this is the game that we're in right now. And this is the hustle that you got to make sure you do not fall susceptible to. All that being said, if you do not have your free copy of this book called The Mirror of Motivation, I'm going to tell you why you want this book, because you probably have goals, you probably work hard. I'm assuming you do both of those, but you may not have ever asked yourself the question, who do I need to be while I'm working hard so I can do what I need to do and get what I want to have in life? This book gives you the frameworks to answer that question. Get this book free All we ask is you cover the shipping by going to mirrorofmotivation.com. The link is below. Again, mirrorofmotivation.com. And send me a text. Tell me the most valuable insight you got from what I just said in this video. My text number is 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all